Okay.
I had to take a sip of my coffee first, but welcome in, everybody. It's week 2 of the high school football season, the Justin Kidder Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine. Excited to bring on our next guest, Jared Luginbill, again with Prep RedZone Ohio. Jared Luginbill is going to join us each and every week throughout the regular season to give us his top 3 matchups to watch for in the Miami Valley. But Jared, first off, before we get to those 3 matchups that you're going to highlight, I did find it interesting last week. One of the more interesting storylines was Springboro, not the only team to not get a game in last week. It's been an issue throughout with COVID that, some teams did not get to kick off in week 1. There's a lot of postponements already, or cancellations, I should say, already for week 2. But you're starting to see these pile up a little bit. There's a lot of games that are not happening that should be happening. How many have you come across already for this weekend alone in week 2?
Yeah, so I actually posted this morning on Twitter that I had noticed that there were 34 cancellations as of this morning for week 2 games. And actually, not long after I posted that, there was another one to make 35. And so, as you said, it's been something that's been continually starting to pile up. And luckily, ADs are doing a great job of rescheduling games and making it so the teams that can play are playing. But it's one of those situations where you just really have to be ready to pivot on a last second whim. If a player or a team comes down with a situation where they can't play, and now you're in a situation of, all right, we have to find somebody on a Thursday for a Friday game or a Saturday game. And so, you saw MVL-wise, there 3 of the 5 games are canceled for this weekend. And Alder just rescheduled. Chaminade Julienne just rescheduled. And so, it's been something that ADs will say are earning their money out there.
Yeah, and that's what's unfortunate. And last week, the Springboro storyline that caught my interest was, their athletic director had come out and announced on Monday that they would not, as of last Monday, they did not have a game for week 1. And they said they were going to be reaching out to teams to be able to try to get a week 1 opponent in last minute. And they made sure in the press release to emphasize that they had reached out to multiple schools who were available to play and they couldn't get a deal done. Why would schools who have an opening to play choose to turn down an opportunity to play a game? Springboro had an opening. They said there was other teams that they could have played. They turned down those invites. Why would a team turn that down, in your opinion? What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, it really could be a lot of reasons. It could just be flat out a competition issue. It could be a cost to travel issue. There's a lot of things that go into making either a home game or a away game happen. It could be an issue that the teams that had an available game all wanted home games, and thing couldn't get worked out from that side of things. So there are times where things don't get done, but I don't want to put it on a school of why they did what they did, because I'm sure they have their reasons, but yeah, there's a lot of, home gates are important. Football is one of the revenue sports in high school athletics. It's one of the things that helps fund athletic budgets. And so it's important that they get those gates when they're available. And so I can understand a school turning down an away game because they want to try to get a home game scheduled. And sometimes with that, with the revolving musical chairs going on, somebody gets left out because they tried to wait for a home game or whatever the case may be. So, those are some of the reasons why that can happen. And I don't know specifically what happened in the Springboro incident. I do know that there were some options, as you said, out there, but the only thing I can think is I know these ADs are wanting their kids to have a chance to play, and so I'm sure whatever happened, there was a reason for it. So
Jared Luginbill, Prep RedZone Ohio, hanging out with us here today. He's here to bring us his top 3 matchups to look for in week 2 here in the Miami Valley. Our game tonight, our Glacier Softwater High School football game of the week, features the Fairmont Firebirds welcoming in the Trotwood Rams. 2 teams, Jared, that had surprising outcomes last week, and that's no disrespect to Fairmont at all, but I mean, it's not often where Fairmont is favored over Alter. Alter coming out, on the losing end last week. Big win for Fairmont. Again, they did a good job. I mean, both teams play very similar. They run the ball. They're old school, but Fairmont dominated time of possession. CJ Hicks' touchdown was called back for Alter, of course, which was huge for momentum for them. But Fairmont has an opportunity to get a huge win over Alter. They already 1-0. But if you would ask Coach Miller coming in, what his thoughts are on being 2-0 when you have Alter and Trotwood in back-to-back weeks to kick off the season, I don't know what kind of answer you'd get from him, but I bet you he's pretty thrilled at the fact that they have an opportunity to go 2-0 with Alter and Trotwood in weeks 1 and 2. That's our game of the week tonight. And then Trotwood, they don't just lose week 1, they get shut out in week 1. I know that Jeff Graham talked with Keith Byers earlier in the week, and he goes, look, there's going to be some bumps along the way this year. They're a very young roster, talented roster, but young roster. And that was one of those growing pain type games that they got to experience right off the bat in week 1. But Fairmont wants to go 2-0. Trotwood wants to avoid going 0-2. They want to get that losing taste out of their mouth. This is a big one tonight. It's one of my favorite games tonight. What are some of the matchups that you have circled? What's your first game that you have on your list of your top 3 games to look out for?
Well, and I actually have CJ rescheduled due to their game being canceled, and they're actually having Cincinnati Moeller come up to play, and that's going to be just a fantastic game. CJ's defense is going to get a run for their money this weekend. Noah Gasselbrock from Moeller, their quarterback, is a 6'5" kid who has D2 offers, and I would say they have one of, if not the fastest wide receiver core in the state of Ohio. They have 2 kids that can just flat fly. Wide receiver Brandon White is a kid who's a D1 kid. He's got offers from Kentucky and West Virginia, I think, are the 2 schools that he's mostly down to at this point. And Tennell Bryant. All 3 of those guys, just like I said, they're smaller, but they flat fly. And so you pair them up with a tight end who's also headed to Kentucky. Josh Caddis is a kid who's going to get all the underneath stuff and can stretch the field a little bit when needed, but they just have an excellent offense. And so, like I said, CJ defensively is going to get a run for their money. On defense, they have a kid, Chase Young, or not Chase Young. His last name is Young, and he is a defensive end who is able to get to the quarterback, bigger kid, 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds. And so I saw him this summer. He was an impressive athlete. And then CJ is coming off a big win over Troy, and I had heard a comment from a Troy person say that they were really surprised how physical CJ was, and so I think that's going to be a big boon in their favor tonight against Moeller is just that line of scrimmage and being able to slow things down from that perspective. But Luke Chandler did a great job last weekend with a big opening weekend, and then you have running back by committee. They have 3 running backs that they used last weekend. All of them went for 70 or 80 yards. Kenyon Owens is a playmaker on the outside. I think he's getting D2 interest. And then defensively, Nesta Owens is a kid. He's a junior, played a lot last year as a sophomore, but has a really good burst off the edge. And I'm really excited to see what he does this weekend. But it's one of those situations, again, as a coach, you're pivoting from a point where you practiced and studied one team all week, and then at the very last second, you're facing another team that is a totally different.
I think we're having a little connection issues. Jared Luginbill, his feed has frozen up a little bit. So again, we Right now, you're watching or you're listening to the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine. I'm Justin Kinner. Our show coming up here at 3 o'clock. Jared Luginbill with Prep RedZone Ohio. We're going to get back with him and get this taken care of and squared away. So we'll be back in just a moment.